Alright, so here's how it works. Basically, the frisbees go up here, and then there's a little push stick, rack and pinion mechanism that just like ramrods them forward, and then they get pushed in between these two springs here. So yeah, you have gearboxes down the sides because the ammo goes through the middle, so I couldn't go in through the middle, so that's why I had to build out on the sides and make it so fat. Alright, so for these parts, since they're older prototype and they're already glued together, basically you want to have this inside magazine tube and this inside left or right parts. They're both the same, they're just mirrored. You want to print those like this, like upright on the print bed, so that you have a nice inside here. And then yeah, just remove infill support from this side. And then for the grip, print the grip like that, face up like that. And then this all gets attached and glued together later. But also, this is an older version. The newer version, I added a bow tie joint here to just connect these more reliably. Basically what you'll do with that is you'll just glue it to one of the sides. Not both of the sides, but just one of the sides. And that way, when you stick everything together and lock everything up, it'll be like interlocked. And even if it doesn't have glue, it should still work. But I still glued this part anyway. So. And then for this next frame, I'll lay out all the parts, how they should be printed. And then you can just kind of pause it and look at them. Before I go over the rest of the layout here, this part's already glued together, but normally this will be printed in two separate pieces, and you'll print this side up like that, and you'll print this side like that. You can see the layer lines, how they're printed and then glued together. And then for this magazine spring, it's actually going to be in a compressed state. And you're going to print that one upright like this, so it'll look like that kind of thing. And then what you'll do once it's printed is you'll score it with an X-Acto knife very carefully. Just try not to split the layers, don't cut your fingers, and you just kind of roll the coil through the blade, and it should be have enough tolerance that it should split apart easily. So yeah. And then for the rest of the pieces, they're all laid out exactly how they would be printed, except for that one and this. So for this part here, if you want less steps on the face, just kind of print it so that the bottom is a bit off on the one side, because it's like a weird shape. If you print it flat, then you'll get more steps on the front, but it doesn't really matter what you choose. These parts here are identical. So you can just print the same part for that. These two are mirrored, so you do have to print both of them separately. That's the top part. Axles, you always print laying down like this. Like, never print an axle like this or something. If you print it laying down, it'll be strong and flexible. Gears, pretty straightforward. Okay, this one here is the ram. It's like it's the part that gets pushed into the frisbees. You just print it like that. These are modular spiral spring inserts, and the polygon shape is nice because it allows you to adjust like pre-tension depending on how you put it in. Here's all these bow tie shapes. These are bow tie joints. These are basically what stitch the halves of the model together. These here are the magic springs that actually launch the frisbees. The right side is just left as is, but the left side you have to glue a strip of rubber to the face. Ignore the fact that I have two pieces glued onto this one. That was just an experiment that didn't change anything. So just glue one piece of rubber along this portion here with some CA glue. And oh yeah, That's the trigger. This is the magazine dovetail slider. I think that's pretty much everything I need to explain. And then these are the actual projectiles. These little thick brim frisbee shapes. And so yeah, here's just a look at all the parts if you want to pause the video just for convenience. So I know I have these glued already, but you might want to save gluing them closer to the end just so you can mess around with stuff. Like, just in case you have to file the inside of this because of printing defects or whatever, you know. Alright, so we'll just start with the pinion gear and the rack. So that'll be your medium-sized axle. And the pinion gear is the one that doesn't have a step on it. I like doing axles like this because it can rotate inside of a bushing nicely as if it's like a full cylinder, but it has these planes on the top and bottom which allow you to key lock components onto it as well. So if you need things to be locked or you need things to spin, doesn't matter, it does both. So yeah, you'll have to glue these together. I just already have mine glued together. That's why it's not. And I guess there are these things, but I wouldn't even bother with them because they're not even necessary. I'm probably gonna take this slit out of the model at some point because sometimes the frisbees get stuck in it. It's kind of annoying. And that's that for the inside. And dovetail sliders are a great way to join two halves together if you have a straight run. And then bow ties are great if you have a curvy surface. That's why I like to do like a dovetail channel for like the top, like make a dovetail out of a Picatinny rail or something and then just join the top together with a Picatinny rail. It's like, why use fasteners if you can just 3D print everything? So whenever you make bow tie joints, it's always a good idea to add a pry point. And so just make sure you have the pry point on the right side. Because if you don't have that, how are you going to get this out without totally, you know, wrecking the finish of your model? This is small spur. Okay, so for this part, it's important to make sure that you what's going on here? Ah, it's the magazine. I'm done. Yeah, so you want the rack to be all the way back. So you want this gear turned that way, which means you want this gear turned this way as much as possible. You want that gear turned that way as much as possible for when you put the big gear in, so that everything's in the right place. No, that way. Yeah, if the magazine riser is all the way up, it blocks the ram, which is kind of an annoying thing. I'll probably try to change at some point. Alright, so this is a gearbox cover. And these little holes are dowel holes that fit filament, little nubs of filament. It's basically like a cheap way of making dowel connections. And it's just like you don't have to print the dowels, you can just cut it off of the spool and call it a day. And a good thing about doing this, because like if you're not using fasteners, you need to dowel your plies or your halves together, so that, because even if you put bow ties and dovetails everywhere else and join everything, if you don't have your halves doweled together, they can slide around, which isn't a big issue, it just makes it feel cheap. And so if it has dowels, then it makes everything super rigid. There's one crappy thing about using like 10% infill support is sometimes these holes break through and then you get dowels stuck inside the parts. And you can hear the dowels like rattling around inside. That's partially because I've disassembled and reassembled it so many times. Through. That went through. That won't go through. God damn it. You're being a dick! Ah, it went through. They all went through. These spiral springs are what actually spring load the whole trigger mechanism. And so they should be like these openings should be oriented in a way that when you put it on, it gives it pre-tension to begin with, but mine have probably just kind of stretched out over time. So I'm going to make it so that mine compresses the spring because PLA handles compression better. So I think compression is this way. Yeah, compression will be this way. Yeah. Probably throw the magic springs in first. So yeah, again, for this one, you want rubber on the left side. It's designed to, like, it has extra tolerance here for a piece of rubber to fit in there. And don't glue 2 pieces of rubber like I did, just glue 1 piece. It's measured out for that. And this side doesn't get rubber. Bow tie. Alright. Now I can put this on. now the trigger mechanism. So yeah, the reason this thing's so fat is because I didn't plan on putting the ammo in the grip. I just realized I could do it part of the way through and thought, that's cool, I'm just gonna do that because it's cool. And then, yeah, but what that does is I have to run my gearbox around the sides, and like run 2 of them and build out the sides so that it's like symmetrical force. I don't have like torsion and twisting and all that crap. And yeah, basically route this trigger movement back here to this ram movement that pushes the frisbees into the springs. But yeah, let's throw the gear cover on. And the faceplate. Bow ties. Yeah, just remember the pry points. And then to load frisbees, you just slide this dovetail back so that the spring can come out. And then you just shove them through this coin slot on the side. And I think it holds up to like 10.